Thank you, Minister Litzman. I can just say in Hebrew, Bezrat Hashem Naseh v'Natzliach. And on a personal note, my wife just told me yesterday, she's a high school teacher, that she was talking to the head of canteen of her school, several hundred students, and she told her that next year she's not going to continue her canteen. And she asked why. Well, she said, well, these crazy acts of Ministry of Health, we cannot continue and sell this food we're selling. They want to sell them only salads and soups and healthy sandwiches. They're going to change the entire food system. I said, great, this is exactly what we need. So it's actually translated into the ground, and that's what we need. To open this conference today, I would like to invite my distinguished colleague and friend, and a major driving force behind this conference, Professor Elliot Berry. Professor Elliot Berry research interests include the sociotype and coping with chronic disease of food insecurity, the biophysical problem of weight regulation, which Litzman just described to us, the Mediterranean diet and effects on nutrition, on cognitive function. He has been visiting scientist in many important research centers such as MIT, Rockefeller, Cambridge University, and Yale University. He is the former director of the Brown School of Public Health in the Hebrew University and the Department of Human Nutrition, as well as the head of the WHO Center and Capacity Building in the Faculty of Medicine in Jerusalem. He works as a consultant at the FAO in Rome from 2013 to 2014 on metrics of food security and sustainability. He is currently a member of the United Nations Multi-Stockholder Committee on Sustainable Food Systems. Professor Berry will present now his talk about connections between food security and sustainability. Please welcome Professor Berry.
Just put it on. So good morning, everybody, and welcome to this amazing conference. I want to thank Professor Litzman for his very important words this morning. In fact, he's the most proactive Minister of Health we've had. In fact, he's almost a revolutionary, and so we're going to help you all through this. I also want to thank Professor Ronem for his wonderful words of introduction from Tel Aviv University. So what I'm going to talk about, to try and bring things together, and the purpose of this conference in the next 2 days is together we're going to build a roadmap for sustainable food systems in Israel. This is the first time, and it's to consider our future. And what I'm going to talk about is are three things. We're going to talk about balancing food security and sustainability, and then the new Sustainable Development Goals, which were initiated from the United Nations in September of last year, and then talk about our challenge. Why is it so relevant for Israel? So at the beginning, you see that food security and sustainability has been portrayed as pillars, the four pillars, and I'm against this, so we'll do that, but just to show how it is generally recognized, availability, access, utilization, stability, and sustainability have the three pillars of the social environment and the economic. Now, what is lacking is Shimshon HaGibor. We need somebody to break down these pillars, because it shows that they're all equal, which they're not, and how to build it into a general holistic system. So the first thing is that food security are not pillars, are pathways, and they go from availability, which is at the national level, that's how much a country produces and how much it imports. A country like Singapore, for instance, all of the food is imported. And then accessibility, which is at the household level, and that's in two dimensions. First of all, people have to get physically to the shops, to the markets to get it, and that's Also important, they need the money. They have to have the economic accessibility. Utilization is at the individual level, and we require, through the Ministry of Health, the quality and safety of our food and the health and the sanitation so that people can use the food and to for their health and their lifestyle. And the fourth dimension is stability. When there are changes in prices, how do people still manage to buy food? And that's a short-term dimension. Now, what sustainability should be is for the future generations. Chesed Shelamet, in another way, that we're going to do things now. If it's planting trees, it's ensuring that the future generations, they will still be able to follow this pathway still in 30 years, 50 years' time. And this is a really and a very important point, that sustainability you can consider as the long-term dimension for food security. And it fits up here stability on the short term and sustainability on the long term, and here are the dimensions, how the social culture will affect how you eat, what sort of what you buy, and what is your traditional with local production, the economy, that the food should be distributed equitably and should be affordable, and the environment, that we protect the environment and not just use processed food, which is the other enemy after junk food. And sustainable diets is the link between sustainability and food security. Now, these are the Sustainable Development Goals, 17 goals which were put forward by the United Nations. And you can see no poverty and zero hunger are 1 and 2. But if I ask, and you can think, how many of these apply to food security? And you won't be surprised when I tell you that the answer is all of them. Let's just have a look. So regarding the environment, you're going to need climate action, looking after the water, aquaculture, looking after life on land. 80% of biodiversity is related to forests, and then that we have clean energy and that is renewable energy, and we're not using up only fossil fuels. At the availability level, and this is to do with the food production and the infrastructure, and that we have sustainable cities, and that not just with large slums outside, such as in most countries, but especially, for instance, in Nairobi and Mumbai in India. Accessibility, many of the dimensions come here, no poverty. Education, and I agree very much with what the minister said, education is the key. What you manage to change habits at the very young age, and we've done projects from kindergartens onwards, then you'll be able to ensure later on that they do the right things. But there's also inequality, gender equality, education, and economic growth. All these things come together. And at the utilization level, no hunger, general well-being, people have to be well in order to be productive, and this is also to do with sanitation. So we're nearly there with the 17. In the middle, we have sustainable consumption and production, which covers the whole field from sustainability and food security. And this will only come when there are partnerships. And this is what's so special about this meeting. A number of groups have come together to really make a difference, and then, please God, it will bring to peace, justice, and strong institutions. So all these things, and if you like, you can regard food as our fuel. A car needs fuel, and it needs the best octane fuel. Now, most people, a car will go on 70-octane fuel, but the motor won't go very well. Everybody in this country should have at least 98-octane fuel in order to be productive. They're multi-stakeholders, the governments, local authorities, academia, NGOs, civil society, finance, law. We've got everybody in on this, and the challenge will be, once we get off the ground, is that you've got to maintain it, you've got to monitor it, and you've got to measure it as well. And this is something I've been doing with my dear friend Dr. Sandro Donini, and he will be talking a little bit more about this, how the Mediterranean, we are in the Mediterranean diet. In fact, the biblical diet came before the Mediterranean diet with the 7 species, how it will combine the environment, the economy, and health and society and culture. And each country has its own variation on the Mediterranean diet. The thing here in Israel, we have super diets. We have super food choices, supermarkets. The problem is people don't eat it, and that's going to be the challenge of the education. So the conclusions up to this point is that sustainable food systems combine food security with sustainability. And one can't exist without the other. In the words of the Talmud, ha baha talia. They are related together, and they're both very, very important. One depends on the other. And sustainable diets brings them together. So that's the first part. The second part is what you've all got in your kits, these call for action papers. Now, these are preliminary suggestions by the organizing team here. We are a team, actually. And we want your input on these so that we can present it maybe later to Sarah Litzman so we can really help making sustainable food systems in Israel operational. I just want to go through what we're suggesting. There should be a national master plan to ensure the right of every citizen to wholesome and affordable food basket for a sustainable, healthy lifestyle that is environmentally and culturally acceptable. We want to develop the Israeli sustainable diet, and it's going to be based, because we're here in the Mediterranean, it's going to be based on the Mediterranean diet pattern. In order to do this, and very quickly, I've actually made things shorter, and I was speaking to Professor Nessel yesterday, she said the shorter you make it, the better. Well, the first thing, we're going to make the food system sustainable along the whole supply. And we're going to reduce food loss and waste, which is absolutely criminal. We have the expert here, James Lomax from UNEP in Paris. 1/3 of food is lost and wasted. Lost in developing countries, getting to the markets, wasted in industrialized countries, such as in restaurants, in hospitals, in the army, lots and lots of food, and we need to address that issue. Then strengthen Israeli agriculture, okay, for the best sustainable practices. The right to all for nutritious food. But this needs monitoring, and the Minister of Health, Department of Nutrition, Professor Enveld is here with us to help us do this. We want to have a national database so that we can measure things and know what's going on. Terribly important. We need the legislation, and we're going to need your help for this. We won't be able to do it without legislation. Less processed food, less salt, less sugars, less additives. And here, no junk food marketing for children. And next along the line is about the education, but it's not just the school children, it's the community. It's got to be bottom up. We want the people to worry what they're getting in public places, that there is decent food. And in the schools, we were going to getting back to teach cooking and skills and kitchen gardens, how to grow things, and regular physical activity. Access of healthy foods in restaurants and public places. But last of all, we tend to forget it's not a list of do's and don'ts. We must realize that eating is a pleasurable, and it has to be a pleasurable and social activity with traditional and cultural choices, and they should be respected. But let's not forget, we do enjoy, we have a Shabbat meal, you have a Sunday meal, a Friday night meal, together. A family that eats together stays together. And that's another message that we should not forget, and that's this terrible thing, eating in the streets and eating on escalators. You sit down like a mensch. So, and tomorrow we've got 6 panels, and just show them how we're going to bring them all in. First of all, we're going to have a panel on local food and how we can promote that. Then there's a panel on food policy and sustainable development goals. We've also got a panel on food waste. Then one on farming in Israel, education for a healthy lifestyle, and then food choices. So we're going to try and cover it with your help, because this is an interactional conference. We want your input on how we're doing it. So to end, nothing new under the sun. Vayanicheu b'gan Eden la'ovdah u'l'shomra. And the first man, Adam Rishon, he put man in the Garden of Eden to tend, to cultivate, to protect and maintain it. So in other words, to sustain and develop, and then we go from that to sustainable development. Now there is a quote from Goethe that really on the importance of planning for the future, and that you mustn't take the corn seeds and not use them, and you must save them for the future. So my two take-home messages for you is a well-fed nation, is a healthy nation, is a sustainable, productive nation. Not all food-secure diets are sustainable, but all sustainable diets are food-secure. But I can't leave without making special thanks now to all the people who really helped to get this off the ground and have this superb and historic conference. Maya Oren and Efrat Oren here from the Manna Center. Professor Lisa Sasson from New York University, and Alan Shepard, who is the mover and shaker of the Israeli Forum for Sustainable Nutrition. I hope I haven't forgotten anybody, but I'm looking forward together to working with you today in order to make a national plan for sustainable food systems operative in Israel. Thank you very much.